your life, you deserve to be more, be more, do more, have more, and give more. And now the Becoming More podcast with Dianna Kokoszka.
Welcome to another episode of Becoming More, where you too can learn from other people and become more. Today, our episode is a little strange because it's called End Strong, Start Strong. And it sounds backwards to me, Tony. What does that mean?
Well, basically, we're in the fourth quarter.
Right.
So we have to do all the things we need to do to end the year strong. And then by ending the year strong, we had enough business in place. So the beginning of the year, January, February, and March, we already have what we need to have a great start for next year.
Okay, so we are going to end strong and start
So we're going to end
right?
strong and start strong.
Okay, now this means that you're willing to start to take notes because you're going to get a lot from this episode. If you are in sales, whether it's real estate, insurance, it does not matter. What you do right now is how we'll set up for next year.
Right.
Let's start off.
Okay. So basically, we're in the fourth quarter. The thing you want to do right now is get a calendar looking at what's left in October, November, and December. Take your calendar, meet with your family, and circle the days you're not going to work for October, November, and December. What days are you not going to work?
That makes so much sense.
And then what happens? The days you work, you what?
You work.
And the days you don't?
You don't.
So I think that's going to be the key. You have to commit. Don't be at home thinking you should be at work. Don't be at work thinking you should be at home.
That's so true.
Get those days done now so you know exactly how you're going to end the year.
Well, and the family feels involved that way
Right.
too. You're not leaving them out. You're actually including them.
Right,
And they feel a part. And you're going to say, these are the days I'm going to work. And now they know.
right.
Yes.
And they know the days you're going to be with them. So be with them physically and mentally.
Mentally. Oh, that's a good one.
And the days you're there, don't take your phone. Disconnect. Have somebody that can cover you if that's what you need to do.
Excellent. Good advice. So what next do you have for
So
us?
basically, we take October, November, and December. We know what days we're going to work. Now, what are the activities we're going to do with the days we work? So we want to start off, first of all, by calling every lead you have that said they were going to do something this year. Call them and find out if they're going to do something this year. And if they're not, tell them you will talk to them next year.
Well, isn't it good to start even actually making appointments for next year?
Yep, you could do that too.
Who was it? I remember from California,
Dave Norberg.
Yes. And he had January all set up by the 1st of December. He had an appointment every single day, sometimes two a day,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, and we're going to incorporate that into the
Okay.
starting of the
I'm
year.
getting ahead of us, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. So basically, we want to call every lead and put them into, they're going to do something by December 31st, or they're not. And if they're not, don't spend any time with them this year. Plan on calling them next year. And we'll talk about that when. And then call every lead you have, get real clarity on when they're going to do something. You need total clarity on what they're going to do. So you're going to have to ask some strong questions, because if you're going to spend time with them and they don't buy or sell this year, that's lost time and building closings for this year and closings for next year.
Right, and clarity is power, so, and we want to make you as powerful as possible.
Right. So we want to really get hold of everybody that's a lead, buyer or seller, and get clarity on where they are. And don't be afraid to tell them, if they're not going to do anything this year, I will get a hold of you the beginning of next year. In fact, I may even call you the last week of this year to get appointments set up for next year. But I'm not going to forget you. But right now I have people that want to buy or want to sell and want to do it now. They're asking for my time because they're doing something immediately.
Right, and wish them a happy holiday,
Right.
right? Merry
Yep.
Christmas, Happy New Year. I'll see you next year. We'll set it up. In fact, see if you can set something up for next
Perfect.
year right now.
That's the next idea. The next idea is if you can, there's nothing wrong with setting an appointment for January 10th. In fact, now you got something to call them about as you get towards the last week in December, first week in January. You said we were going to get together on the 10th. Call and confirm. Don't call to set the appointment, call to confirm the appointment.
Excellent.
So that's another thing we want to do. We want to call every person in our database between now and the end of the year. Every person. If you got 500 or 600, you're going to be busy. You're going to call every person starting now and wish them Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. You know, we're getting ready for next year. If there's anything I can help you with, let me know. But basically, it's going to be a holiday good wishes relationship call.
You know, building strong relationships, that's what's very important right now, deep relationships, and especially with Thanksgiving coming up, having people wishing them a happy Thanksgiving. More importantly, tell them how grateful you are and thankful that they are a client of yours, and give gratitude for all that they've done for you. And even if they haven't given you a referral, just thank them for thinking of you when referrals are out there. Start planting that seed, because people grow into the conversations you create around them. If you're not creating conversations around referrals, they're never going to give them to you, right? You just can't say, who do you know? The best thing is, did I do a good job for you? And if I did, the way you let me know that is to give referrals.
Right. So basically, all the calls now into your database will be non-referral oriented. Starting January 1st, every call you do, which you should call every person in your database starting January 1st, and start getting back into the business mode. If you remember from Bold, the original Bold, is we asked you to say this is a business call. In this year, they don't have to be a business call. But you want a business call, start looking for referrals in January. By saying Thanksgiving, I just thought of it's a great time to do a reverse Bold 100.
Oh, yes.
What's a reverse Bold 100?
Well, it's where you make those 100 calls and you go after them to get 100 calls coming in.
Right. And a reverse Bold 100 is how do you get 100 people to call you?
That's why I said you have them calling in instead of you calling out.
Right. So here's what a couple of people have done that I used to coach. What they do is they offer a Thanksgiving dinner for 4 or 8 people. And they have them call Thanksgiving this year, I think, is the last Thursday in November, which is like the 28th. So say everybody call on November 20th or whatever, that Monday or Tuesday of the week before Thanksgiving. Have enough people that can answer the phone and have them call and register to do for the dinner for 4, dinner for 8. So you could create a Bold 100 and be sure you got enough people around that answer the phone. I had a client that did that 4 or 5 years ago, the Bold 100. On Mother's Day, gave away a full day at a spa. He planned on getting 30 or 40 calls, got 189 inbound calls, had no way of getting the phone answered. So people just left messages with their name and all that information when he could have talked to them, had a conversation with them, and then even ask them for a referral.
See, I think that's so important. You can put yourself out of business by not giving good service. So make certain you have people there to call.
Right.
And make it so if they have enough time to order something just in case they think they're going to win, right? Yeah, it's pretty exciting. In fact, maybe you want to give away a couple of dinners. So we have 2 or 3 winners versus
do that.
one.
However you want to do that.
A lot of people give away pies and then they they have them come and pick them up.
Right, that's another
Yeah.
idea.
I know Jean and Susan Arant do that every year.
Yep.
They call us wanting to know if we're gonna be in town, come pick up a pie. Of course, we're never in town, so.
So I think that, as you look at this year, another thing, between now and the end of the year, you're going to do something that you don't do much of during the year, and that's go to a lot of parties or get invites for a lot of parties. While you're at the party, think about that as a party with a purpose.
Well, I like
And
that, party with a purpose.
Party with a purpose. Party with a purpose means you have a goal to meet so many people, get phone numbers for so many people, set an appointment with so many people. But you're not at the party just to have a good time. You're at the party to start connecting with the potential of new relationships, building new relationships, or people you could call after the party and just get them and put it into your
And
database.
here, this is very important that we don't just go up and start asking for names. What's your
Right.
name? What's your phone number? I'd love to put you on. No, that's, you'll absolutely turn them off. Yet a great way to start that is, so I'm just curious, what is it that you do or where are you employed? That I've heard a long time ago that you don't say, where do you work?
Right.
Yeah, you just say, where are you employed? And then people say, well, what do you do? And that opens up the conversation, doesn't it?
Yes,
Tony?
it does.
For you to say, well, I'm involved in real estate. In fact, the market is very interesting. Have you ever thought about investing? And then it just opens up the door. Well, let me keep you informed of what's happening in the market if you desire. Do you have a card? May I have your name and phone number? Now, here's something that's interesting too. Make certain you remember their name. One thing that I have found is that when you repeat a name, like right away after they're introduced, like I'm introduced to you, Tony, I would say something like, well, Tony, it's a pleasure to meet you. So Tony, where are you employed? Right? So I say Tony 2 or 3 times. And then when he answers and I go, oh, so Tony, you're employed. And I know it's going to seem a little strange for you to do that. Yet what we're doing is we're putting in our cognitive memory, what is his name? And it's amazing. When I was in Canada and I met these ladies as I was coming in the door, they were going out to happy hour with all of the people that were there at the event and then on to dinner. And so I said their name and I said it at least 3 or 4 times as I was talking with them. Now there were 7 ladies there. And so I started making it a game, right? And saying their names, going around and pointing at all of them. And the next day after I spoke, now this was at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the following day, and different ones came up to me. And it was interesting. I could remember their names. Had I not used their name, I would have been in, oh my goodness, what is their name? What is their name? Because they didn't have name tags on. So that's just a trick. Use the name off and you'll remember it.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So then we look at what do we do to prepare for next year? Well, there's 3 things we want to be working at. What is your goal for next year? Hopefully
you've got a business plan already.
your plan is done for 2025. So what we want to start preparing is we're going to have a number of closings. So if your goal is to do 48 closings next year, that means you're going to have at least 4 closings for January.
Yeah, ready to go.
Ready in the books that you're going to close in January. Probably be wise to have 2 in February. So on December 31st, you want to have 6 closings for next year, 4 for January, 2 for February. If your goal is to do 120 closings, you have to have 10 for January and 10 for February. And if you don't have those in place, when you wake up on December or January 1st,
You're already behind.
you're already behind goal.
And let's just take a moment there, because I know a lot of people start having business planning clinics. They start writing out their business plan in like November and December. And I'm going, no.
Yeah.
You need to have your business plan. You start in August, you have it in September. I mean, the last quarter is where you've got to finish strong.
Right.
So we're just working to play catch up ourselves right now since we
Right.
started the podcast.
Right. So one, figure out, well, how many closings do you need? Pardon me.
Yep.
How many closings do you need in January? Half of February, have those in place. The next thing is, if you're doing four contracts, 4 closings a month, how many are going to be listings? Let's say 3 out of every 4 are listings. So what do you have to have? You have to have enough listings on December 31st to in the pipeline so that you can sell your 3 in January. If you have no listings and you're going to sell 3 in January, then you have to do a lot of lead generation or have a lot of conversations every part of January to get them to close or get them to go under contract. So best to have them done.
Well, the other part is a lot of people will be saying, I don't want to put my home on the market during the holidays.
Right.
And what we can do at that point is you can get the listing signed to go on the market in January, or you can remind them that during the holidays, a buyer comes through is an actual buyer. You know, nobody's going to be out looking at properties unless they're actually interested in
Right.
buying a property. So you have better buyers during the month of December. And after all, everybody's out there, they still need to buy, even if it's in
Right.
December, they may
Yep.
be starting that job in January, and they could miss a potential buyer by waiting.
Well, that just brought another thought to my mind on the parties with a purpose.
Yes,
If you have a client that said they're going to do something with you in January,
yes,
they go to a party, what are they going to tell their friends?
that they're thinking about selling.
And their friends are going to say what?
I may have a buyer.
Or a realtor.
Yes.
So be really careful on these parties because those people are going to go to parties also.
Oh,
And
that's a
so
good point.
they're
Yeah,
going to
don't
tell
lose-
their, go ahead.
I said, don't lose them.
No,
Get it signed.
get it signed and post dated if you possibly can. And just remember that those people are going to be interacting with a lot of people. I'm going to tell you, every friend's got a realtor.
Yeah, and one of the things when we mean post dated, we mean put in additional provisions that the showings will begin on a certain date. Don't literally make the contract start January
Right.
1st, because if they sell it December, you're out
Right.
anyway.
Right.
So when we say, yeah, make certain that you understand the whole
Right.
deal, right?
Right,
Okay.
absolutely. So we have enough listings that we can sell them in January. We have enough closings that we can close them in January and February. And then the third thing is, like Diana talked about Dave Norberg, he would set 10 to 12, sometimes as many as 15 appointments before the end of the year for January.
Mhm.
So now you're already in the groove of getting on listing appointments, getting appointments. All you have to do is go on them, complete the transaction, while now you're feeding February, March, and April. So we have to kind of front end load next year. So we'll talk more about that in a minute or two here.
Yeah, and that's what's important, to be able to do that, right?
Right. So really what we do for next year then is we attempt to front end load January. What that means is if you've been doing an hour of lead generation a day, let's say for the first half of January or all of January, you go to 3 hours. If you've been doing 2 hours a day, go to 5 or 6 hours a day.
And I know people don't like to hear that, yet I've got to tell you, the people that do this every year, they start out so strong
Yep.
that by the end of next year, they're so far ahead of goal and they're already setting up January. Many of them are taking the entire December off and
Yep.
still making goal every
Right.
year. It
Right.
starts strong. It's very
Yeah.
important.
So basically, we want to accelerate what we do in January, and then in February, accelerate at a lesser level, and then kind of get back in your groove in March. So if you can front end load January and February, then like if you can get a lot of listings in January and February and quote unquote the season of selling
Yeah.
starts in April. Well, doesn't,
Know where that came
yeah,
from.
I don't know.
I don't know. We sold properties January, February, March.
There's no,
Yeah.
anyway, you'll have a lot of listings when the flowers grow, the signs in the yards grow.
Yeah.
By then you'll have so many listings that you'll be able to have huge
That's good.
April, Mays and Junes.
That's great.
So front end load those 2 months. I know it's an effort. We know it's hard to do, and nobody else is going to be doing it. And most of the realtors are gone in at least by October 1st, and I guarantee you by Halloween, which is Realtor Day, it means they're done most realtors are done for the year.
Remember in Cinderella, I used to laugh about this all the time and tell the story that Cinderella, what did she
Right.
do? At midnight, if she was not back home, the coach turned into a pumpkin, right?
Right.
Well, I think a lot of realtors turn into pumpkins on January 31st. In fact, I used to
These-
say it's not
October 30
Cinderella, it's Cinderrealtor.
You mean October 31st?
October 31st. Yes, I get my dates wrong. What can I say? Here's the fun part about it is when football season starts, I start seeing a lot of realtors start stepping back, and they've convinced themselves that the buyers and the sellers are not out there. Now, I don't know who ever made up that story, yet there's a lot of people that work hard to make that story a reality. And so if you've been one of them, don't buy into the story. Make up a new story. It's all an illusion anyway. Just write a good one, right? You get to write your own story of life. Yet too many people give other people the pen, like the realtors that say, oh, nobody wants to buy until April. Oh, nobody wants to sell during the holidays. Don't buy into that stuff.
Right. And then talking about January, either January 1st or January 2nd, make it a full day of conversations.
Right.
If you do it on January 1st, don't start before 10 or 11 in the morning. And I've seen some people start and have pretty good luck. I think you're a little safer to be later in the morning, and then basically going all day long. And who do you call? Well, it's the biggest expired day of the year is December 31st, January 1st. So it'll be a lot of expireds, especially in this market we're in, there will be a lot of expireds. Calling old expireds.
The old ones actually sometimes are the best.
Right. Because?
Well, because nobody's calling them,
Right.
and they've thought about it. Remember when the Christmas tree starts coming down, first of all, the Christmas tree makes it look smaller because it takes up space, and they've had to move everything around. Now they're taking it down and they're going, doesn't look the same because all the decorations aren't up. So yeah, a lot of times they just want something new now and they're ready for it.
Great. So on January 1st or 2nd, you do it. And if you've got a team, make it a party. Start with breakfast, call for 2 or 3 or 4 hours, have lunch. During each breaks, you kind of figure out how many appointments you've set. You could even ring the bell, start the bell idea like you used to do.
Bell or blow the horn or whatever.
Yeah, every time somebody gets an appointment, you celebrate it, you critique it, you learn from it. So you may take an hour. We're recommending an hour to an hour and a half for lunch. And then during lunch, take some time to critique what objections surprised you, what worked for you, all that type of stuff, so that they do really, really become stronger as the day goes on.
Done this.
Yeah.
So what's happened on some of these days? I know what happened with us, and yet just in the last few years, because we still stay in touch with a lot of realtors.
Yeah. Well, I had one realtor I talked to probably 10 years ago. They set over 100 appointments on that.
On January 1st.
Yeah, his team, it was a big team.
Yeah.
I had one realtor take, he said 16 appointments that day.
What in the last couple of years, what's been happening? Still doing that the same way?
Yep.
Yeah.
The people that are doing it are still setting appointments. Yeah. And they're having a great first day. You know, when he set 16 appointments, he had his biggest listing month. He listed 40 houses that month. Why? Because he got 16 on the first day. Now, it took him over 10 hours to get those 16 appointments. And he was involved with a group that most of my clients were in
Yeah.
called Beat Your Best. So here's
Okay.
another thought for you. Beat your best. Beat your best is if your best a day is setting 2 appointments,
Yeah.
now the mindset for the next day
Hey,
is
it's
3. And then when I get to 3, my mindset is,
That's right.
and he got to 16. So he
Yeah.
was at 15.
So he made 16 appointments in one day. See, what we're doing right now is stretching your mind, because once the mind is stretched, it can't go back to its original. You've got to expand your mind every day. Start thinking bigger. Too many people get into that scarcity mode, especially around Christmas time. For some reason, I don't know what it is, yet scarcity seems to come out. And we want you to do great in the year 2025.
So the other thing you're going to do on that January 1st or January 2nd, call all those leads that you promised you would call them after the 1st of the year.
There you go. That'd be a great one on the 1st and the 2nd.
And
Wish
then-
them a happy new
Right.
year.
Then start calling all your old leads because it's a new
Yeah.
year, a new time. Then call old expireds, old FISBOs, old anybody.
Don't call us, even though we're getting older.
Right, right. So as you do that, and then start calling your database and looking for referrals. So
That's
there's
great.
plenty to do on that day when you're going to do 4 or 5 or 6 hours.
Right.
There's plenty to do when you go from 2 hours a day to 4 to 6 hours a day. There's plenty to do when you go from 1 to 3. There's plenty of people to call. And you can call your database twice at the beginning of the year, because who knows what the real estate market's going to look like. We don't even know what it's going to look like tomorrow. It could be a lot of changes. So a lot of communication on what's happening in the market.
You know, I think right now we've got to be innovative. Start thinking of different things that you can do for your clients and show that you care about them. Make it so simple to do business with you. That's one of the things. People love efficiency. They want to feel important, and we've got to make them feel important. The other part is build strong relationships with them. Stay in touch throughout the entire year.
Right.
Right. And then also the 4th thing is make your value so strong. I mean, people will spend extra money when they get good service. They'll spend extra money when people add value. So what do you do to add value? And I'm not talking about like just selling a home. People expect for you to
Right.
do that,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
It's what do you do that sets you apart from everybody else?
And so the other thought I want to leave as the end too is these are all great ideas. And as of right now, they're only ideas and concepts. So the idea of decide, I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do this. What you don't want to do is put something down and don't do it. So if you don't do it for 2 or 3 days, take it off and focus on the things you're going to do.
Yeah, it's like, well, I love to walk as far as getting my 10,000 steps. I shouldn't say I love to walk. Yet if I don't get going on it right at the very beginning, guess what? At the first of the day, I'm out doing it at the end of the day, and it's not much fun.
Right.
That's what it's going to be like. If you don't start strong next year, you're going to go ahead and be at the end of the year and working constantly behind the 8 ball, working to make up for it. So that's why we want you to end strong and start strong. It's very important. And Tony, I just want to go back through. You told us to take a calendar and mark off, get your family together and say, these are the days I'm going to take off and be with you. Therefore, these are the days I'm going to be working, and they need to know that. Then you said, call every lead, right? And the days that you work, you really do work. You don't play when you're supposed to work.
Right.
And you don't work when you're supposed to play.
Yep.
And make yourself and your family clear on what's happening, because clarity is power. Then look for all the buyers and sellers by calling every lead and asking them, if they're interested before the end of the year. And if they're not, then set appointments for January or put them on hold. Don't keep calling them through November and December, right? Work on the people that desire to do something. Set appointments for January right now and call every single person in the database, right? Make certain that everyone absolutely knows. And at Thanksgiving time, have a contest, give away a
Right.
turkey, and in fact,
Turkey
the
dinner.
entire dinner, you
Right.
said, right?
Mhm.
And you could actually give away just pies if
Right.
that's what you decide
Yep.
to do.
Mhm.
When you go to parties, make it a party with a purpose. I love that. That was so good for you to say. And prepare for all the goals that you've set for the upcoming year. How many closings, then know how many listings you're going to have, how many buyers you're going to work with, and really break it down. And we already know that's already done because it's in October, or at least it should have been done in September, right? So you can tweak it through October. And 4 closings in the month of January, you want a minimum of that depending on your
Your goal.
goals,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. For 48 goal, then 4 closings a month for January and 2 for February.
Yep.
So-
And then set 12 to 15 appointments for January in December so you can start out strong. So what last parting words do you have for us there?
I guess it just is, just do it. I
Yeah.
don't know what else more to say.
Nike said it best, just do it, right? Because so many people, they'll hear the information and then they don't implement.
Right.
And that's what sets realtors apart. In fact, my new saying and my new quote is that we are absolutely addicted to information and allergic to implementation. So be somebody that actually goes in and implements what we've talked about. I know it's going to be against your nature, many of you, to go January 1st. I'm going to call people on January 1st.
Yep.
I'm telling you, the realtors that we know that do it every single year and make it a party for their team and their families, if you like, have a big screen TV going. You don't have to have the sound on to watch football, right? They can be watching and you can be preparing for next year. Whatever it is, start strong. More importantly, end strong. And that's our session today in Becoming More. We wish you the very, very best in becoming more in 2025. In fact, write the story right now with what will happen in 2025. Write it with a lot of feeling, a lot of emotion. Put down all the things that you accomplished in 2025 as though the year is over. And then put that letter somewhere where you can, well, just put it in a drawer somewhere. And then put in your calendar in December 31st where you put that letter, and maybe you can actually read it out loud to the family. Make it a family affair. Do a family letter.
Right.
Have your kids do a letter. Heaven forbid. You can do a lot of different things with that letter and the feelings that you have of accomplishment. And until our next week and our next session, we trust that you're becoming more. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.
Thank you.
In your life, you deserve to be more, do more, have more, and give more. And now the Becoming More podcast with Dianna Kokoszka.